Nice to see you and meet you.
I hope we didn't wake you up too early.
No. It's just it's about 10 a.m.
Yeah, so then you're okay. We are into our evening, so the sun has set, and we are also deep into summer. We are all enjoying 40 degrees centigrade temperature.
You are funny, yeah. Well, we were really, wishing that temperature would whip up a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to the conversation. I can't call it anything else at the moment.
Yes.
There's something going on. I can't figure out what it is.
Hello, kindly anyone please switch off their mic, please. Hello. Yeah. Kindly host look at it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so welcome everybody to the 60th day of Global Communication Education Conclave GSEC. This conclave has been initiated by Global Media Education Council, GMAC, the first homegrown global council of media educators, researchers, professionals, and policymakers. The idea of setting up GMAC was mooted by Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary last year. Then like-minded people joined hands with Professor KG Suresh as president and Dr. US Pandey as vice president. Today, GMAC family has grown to more than 60 members. As vice president of GMAC, I have been part of this academic endeavor since the time this idea was mooted. I find myself lucky to be part of this galaxy of media educators in this forum. Global Communication Education Conclave GSEC is the first step of GMAC. Many more academic and professional endeavors will follow. In GSEC, we have reserved evenings for academic deliberations and enriching discourse with a global perspective. And all our sessions till date have been trendsetters. We have planned 75 sessions of GSEC, and we have already achieved 80% of our target. In today's session, there are many distinguished scholars and professionals with us. I welcome them all in this session of GSEC. I feel happy to share the company of Professor Amitabh Srivastava, Director, School of Media and Communication, Manipal University, Jaipur, who is the chair of this session. Ms. Samira Jain, filmmaker and the course director of a creative documentary course at Shri Aurobindo Center for Arts and Communication, is the chief guest of this session. Professor Amit Tyagi, Associate Director, MIT School of Film and Television, MIT ADT University, Pune, and former Dean of FTI Pune, is also with us today, as we feel proud to acknowledge his contribution and confer on him the Lifetime Achievement Award. The keynote address will be delivered by Dr. Bukare Sandogo, Associate Professor of Cinema Studies, Department of Media and Communication Arts, Black Studies Program, City College, City University of New York. In today's session, Mr. Prashant Kashyap, General Manager, Strategy and Brand Development, Jagran Prakashan Limited, has also joined as a corporate speaker. I welcome all my distinguished colleagues in this GSEC session. And my special assignment in this session is to introduce the moderator of the day, Novina Chakravarti. Novina has an experience of more than 15 years in the media and education industry. She completed her bachelor's degree and master's in journalism and mass communication with a specialization in radio, television, and films from Banaras Hindu University. She completed a film appreciation course from the prestigious FTI Pune and a filmmaking course from the Indian Film Institute in Delhi. She is pursuing her PhD in film studies at the School of Media and Communication at Adamas University. She worked with Star News as a journalist. She worked for more than a decade as an associate professor at Jagran Institute of Management and Mass Communication in Noida and in association with Jagran Prakashan Limited. She was the mentor of advertising and film specialization students. She has been a columnist on a few social journalism platforms, and she has also mentored and created documentaries, info commercials, and short films. She has also received professional training in dance, and she has choreographed and coordinated many events along with the privilege of anchoring for film festivals like Jagran Film Festival and international film festivals. In the year 2020, she joined Adamas University as assistant professor at the School of Media and Communication. She is also the chief coordinator of Adamas International Film Festival and also the mentor of Adamas University Film Club. She has presented many research papers based on the film studies in a number of national and international conferences. Ms. Novina is an avid traveler. She has traveled more than 120 travel destinations across India and abroad. Now she has started her journey as a travel blogger and digital content creator. She has her own YouTube channel, Novina the Amateur, that covers travel, food, and arts. So now I hand over the rein to Novina and request her to take this session forward.
Thank you indeed, sir. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you and namaskar. And indeed, I'm really very kind of you, Amrish sir, that you introduced me, and I'm really overwhelmed. And without any further ado, let me start the session. And firstly, a namaste to everyone and a very warm good evening and good morning to Bukhari, Dr. Bukhari, because he right now he is in maybe early in the morning, 11 o'clock there. So a very warm good evening and to everyone. And first of all, my heartiest greeting to all the media dignitaries, eminent speakers, to all my colleagues and students. Welcome to Global Communication Education Conclave, organized by Global Media Education Council. I am Novina Chakravarti. Welcome you all. Once Martin Scorsese said that cinema is the matter what is in the frame and what is out. So when we talk about cinema, then we start thinking about Edison's company's prototype of kinetoscope, Lumiere Brothers commercial screening, narratives of Alice Guy, George Méliès, A Trip to the Moon, marvelous work to Orson Welles, to Laughter and Emotion of Charlie Chaplin, all the major movement of cinema, to Italian neorealism, French New Wave, Japanese New Wave, and all revolutionary artwork of the best filmmakers over the globe like Truffaut, Godard, Satyajit Ray, Akira Kurosawa, Hitchcock, and many more. And the list is absolutely unending. Earlier, the filmmaking was considered to be a very rigid creative format. The film wouldn't be guaranteed success unless it had a big star or a prick of climax. Of course, middle cinema creating benchmark is existence. Digital platform has democratized filmmaking and filmmakers. It is any individual can capable of handling and having a gripping of story to tell a story. In fact, movies can convey gripping story with a run of 15 minutes to maybe 2 hours long as short film because it is increasing and we are consuming the many formats. Digital medium has brought down to the cost production of the film, encouraging the new filmmakers and widen their creative horizons and became a breeding ground of the talent discovery. Increasing and propagation of OTT platform, multi-screening and multi-screening station, and several film festivals reinforces the belief of independent filmmakers that there is an audience and channel out there would ensure the films they make, they would consumed and has potential to generate revenue. Monetization models of these platforms are taking shape side by side and see the healthy balance to old school and the new age cinema. Clearly, even Indian cinema is a middle revolutionary phase, and major highlights being coexistence and commercial blockbusters. Independent films both are enjoying their fair share. The growing of home entertainment and OTT television, and definitely the rise of media and entertainment job opportunities. Career opportunities are rising across the board, and there will be growing demand of web series, script writing, web series, film editing, film new format, ad filmmaking, sound design techniques, and many other platforms are there. As aspiring filmmakers, one need to be skill ready to manage win these changing times. Understanding every dimension and filmmaking will thus be essential. Filmmakers have complete knowledge and the key of their direction, script writing, production, cinematography, editing, sound designing, and importantly, how to promote film, web series, and how to define advertising and digital marketing strategy. Today's area of discussion is understanding new age cinema opportunities for budding filmmakers. So on that note, we are starting today's session, and I'm really privileged to welcome our chief guest, a prolific filmmaker, Ms. Samira Jain. Namaste, ma'am, and welcome to this session. And before handing over to the baton, as Samira ma'am has to go, and she told me that no, she has some time there. So I asked her, ma'am, I would like to welcome you first. So before handing over the baton to her, let me just give a brief sketch to her vast career. Ms. Samira Jain has been editing and directing films. She has involved with a diverse aspect of film practice for most of her life. Her directional and editorial work has been exhibited widely in India and abroad. Her participation in film jury and curriculum formulation have been part of her engagement. She has been teaching, mentoring at several platforms and institutions, including her alma mater, Film Television Institute of India, Pune. She is interested in structuring pedagogic practice, which pushes boundaries to the documentary form and accepted code around it. Since 2013, she has been course director of a creative documentary course at Sri Aurobindo Center of Arts and Communication, a unit of Sri Aurobindo Society in Multidisciplinary Mass Communication and Art Institute, New Delhi. If you talk about her direction skills, she has been a director of the films like Mera Apna Shahar, My Own City, Portrait of Belonging, Born at Home, and If You Can Pause. She edited films such as A Season Outside, A Night of Prophecy, A Lighting Testimonies, A Quiet Light Entries. So she has been a part of many talk shows, master classes, including National Film Archive of India, DISSK, FFK, Thiruvananthapuram, MFF, Madurai. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Novina. Really, it's a great honor. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay, great. And also, thank you, Novina, for understanding the situation. Just to share with everyone, our final diploma film shoots are going on right now. And so I'm quite tied up, and I told her that I wouldn't be able to come on. But then she really pushed very sweetly, and she said that she would let me go by, 8:10, which is really lovely of her. So I'm going to go straight into it. And I believe that we have about 15 minutes, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so I'm going to, hopefully this will be less than 15 minutes. And I'm going to look at my notes in the interest of economy, so that I don't ramble. And I'm also going to keep this quite informal, because I think that there's a way in which we could perhaps discuss some of these ideas later. But
absolutely.
So your topic that has been given is understanding new age cinema, opportunities for budding filmmakers. And this is, of course, very interesting. And, I could and others could hold forth about these opportunities, about the opening out and flourishing of digital OTT platforms, etc., about new opportunities opening out. But I feel that I would be saying what everybody already knows. So I'm not going to go into this. Instead, I will share with you an experience I had last year in November, late last year, when I was up in the hills with my students for a study trip of 3 weeks in Himachal. And the reason I thought that I would share this with you is actually it ties up completely with your topic in a sense. So bear with me. I'll recount this experience and share it with you. So we were, like I said, we were on a study trip for 3 weeks in a small place in Himachal Pradesh. And we met various people there, including people working at the grassroots level, in the local villages, in the small towns, looking at environment and environmental issues. And as you know, environment and politics are never very disconnected. So the conversation with them became very interesting. We started to really discuss a lot of things. And at some point, they said they wanted to see some of our student films, which are connected with environment. And so they organized a screening, they called some people over, etc., and they showed 2 films. One is called Jamna Par, which looks at the degradation of the river Yamuna in Delhi. And the other is called Did You Do It?, which looks at issues of water and air pollution in the context of a residential area in Ghaziabad, which is on the outskirts of Delhi, where the student herself lived, and she actually continues to live. Now, I must share with you that it was with quite a lot of trepidation that I agreed to these screenings, because the films are not regular, within quotes, documentary films by any stretch of imagination. They don't have a standard voiceover with the voice of God. They don't have standard interviews. They don't have experts, talking heads, that kind of thing. And in fact, when we were there up in Himachal, one of the student directors of these films was with us. And he was assistant teaching faculty on one of the workshops that we were doing there. So I felt very concerned for him, young person in his 20s. And I said, he's going to show his film and people are going to yawn or get bored or say, what kind of film have you made? What is the message of this documentary? And I kind of warned him and I said that, look, don't worry. We're in a certain space and, don't take it hard. It's okay. Let's just see how the screening goes. Because as we know, what happens with documentary, with nonfiction, is that you're looking for a message. It's not fiction, where you don't need a message, where you can allow the story to unfold in all its complexity, ambiguity. In documentary, you normally need a clear explanation, a clear position, and clear answers. Now, so we naturally imagine that, since these films are not in that mode, and they don't use the usual tropes associated with documentary, we naturally imagine that for a viewership there, habituated to certain kind of documentary, these films would be a disappointment, and worse, they could be a crashing bore, So we were kind of bracing ourselves for this, and both the films were seen, and something totally unexpected happened, which is that actually the films really worked for them. And they said that it's because they don't have a voiceover, and it's because the films are not in the explanatory mode, because the films are not talking down to the audience. They are sharing with the audience. So these people who do workshops with young and old people in urban and rural areas, they said, actually, these films are actually perfect for us. And can you please give us copies? Because we would like to show these films. They present a certain image, sound, time, experience of the particular issues concerned, and they're perfect for having a discussion afterwards. And they said this was material they want to use. And the problem that they have been having when they pick up, media and communication from other places. So, they're talking about environment, they naturally search and they pick up documentaries on environment to show to people. And they find that most of these documentaries are in the teaching mode. They're in the explanatory mode. They have a voiceover. They're very heavy. They're talking down, and audiences just get bored and fed up. And, they're used to being talked down. And so these films were working for them, When I share with you some of the elements in these films, I think that you may be even more surprised, actually. Because, for instance, one of the films, this film called Did You Do It? I'll read you a short synopsis. Bear with me, because I'm sort of doing this to make a point about teaching and learning.
Sure.
So I'll read out a very brief synopsis. It says, a place that is neither urban nor rural, on the fringes of the capital of India. The film attempts to explore the dynamics between natural resources and human intervention. In this place that is my home, who is responsible? They, you, me, or all of us? So in a film like this, there are diary entries from the student director's writing. There is no voiceover. She tracks steps of a vicious cycle of degradation. There's a lot of work she did to get permission to shoot at the local water treatment plant, researching with local farmers, studying the effect of pollution on human health. And yet, with all this research, not going into the predictable documentary mode. That basically is what we're used to. And there's more, which I won't describe here. The other film, since we had only shown 2 films, the other film is titled Jamna Par. And the synopsis reads like this. Jamna Par lurks on the river's edge, seeking to explore how the inhabitants of the Yamuna relate to its degraded presence, the fragile nostalgia of an unknowable past, and the horror of its unthinkable future. So as this suggests, the film looks at the degraded river. Interestingly, this film, Jamna Par, which is about the river, doesn't give you a single statistic, not even one fact. It instead depicts the experiences of the river, memories around it, and activities in and around, in all hours of the day and night. So, I feel it's very interesting how this kind of work is best understood and most simply understood by people, and how it is proved that certain kind of argumentative, rhetorical, explanatory are not such successful communication. In a way, in the simplest way, we are not bored with people who always teach. Aren't we bored, with people who are always teaching or preaching, right? And we avoid their company, at least I do, And we, on the other hand, a friend or an interesting person, a person who one seeks the company of, is someone who shares, not teaches, in the context of the perception of a group who's working with other people and wants to communicate with them. And this is our business, right? Communication. He's really interested in material, in audiovisual material that communicates, that serves his purpose. He doesn't want entertainment. He doesn't want sugar-coated pills. He wants to get to the heart of the matter. And he doesn't want propaganda, because he finds that it bores people and is rhetorical, superficial, and it amounts to preaching to the converted. Now, the reason I'm flagging all this for us is that I think it really becomes particularly interesting for us, since we are in the business and the field of communication. We are interested in sharing, in transmission of experiences, ideas, phenomenon, history. So I share all this with you to share a perception that I think all of us probably think that it is important for education to wake up to the needs of our time. And, to leave aside formulas, templates, formats, and to actually interrogate what lies at the heart of the communication. How best can that be achieved? How best can we as educators develop pedagogic methods to help the students open their minds, help them to understand the real value of research, rather than the copy-paste type of research that we normally encounter. We encourage them to understand authenticity, sincerity of communication, because that's what finally works. That's what finally communicates. So in this instance I shared with you, it was the communication with people working on the ground. But on the other end of the spectrum, these are also the same films, among others from our course, that MUBI has selected for showing. So some of these films are up on the OTT MUBI, It's one of the best streaming platforms. And so I find that this, and they're flagging it like on the radar, possible big names coming up in Indian cinema, young directors, that kind of thing, So on the one hand, you have a certain kind of education on the ground. On the other hand, you have MUBI, which is read as entertainment. Surely we read it as entertainment, And I think that it's interesting that the dichotomies of education and entertainment are blurring. They're completely blurring, today. And it's high time, really, Many other polarities are also being blurred. For instance, the relationship between content and the form you give it is being stirred up and bringing forth new languages of communication. And we as educators have to rise to the call of the times. I would be very happy. I really don't know much about this endeavor, but if this wonderful endeavor here was to address some of these issues in an urgent, pressing, and proactive way, I'd be very glad to be of any assistance in such an enterprise. I will really wind up, don't have very much more to say, but before, and I'll take your leave soon after I finish, but I just want to add one more thing here before I go. Which is, this thing of the word innovation. The word innovation is an oft-used one in the area of education. But as we know, real pedagogic innovation means really hard work. And, when we look at common modes of communication around us, we see a few pervasive aspects, and it's interesting to flag them, We see there's a quick taking of positions, a kind of responsivity, right? This hyper responsivity on social media, especially, and in other places, There's a kind of quick and exaggerated response to things. And that seems to have become the norm, actually. In fact, there's a kind of anxiety to communicate and take a position quickly so that nobody reads you wrong, so that you're on the right side, that kind of thing. So when we think about all this and about propaganda, about this whole for or against kind of polarized debate, how do we speak as media people, as educators, as teachers? How do we speak? How do we place ourselves? Do we decide to speak the enemy's language, so to speak, Or do we have another way of speaking? So the question is also, why does one talk about having an openness of form? Is it just, just for the sake of it, or what is the use? What is the use? And the use, it seems to me, is that so that the communication can have a deeper, more meaningful, more lasting effect. It's not just an opinion, it is maybe the beginning of an understanding. This kind of communication does not throw the issue at you saying the issue is closed. We figured it all out, done with it. And, you know, the whole truth has been spoken with a capital T. This kind of communication is more open and allows the narrative to go on inside the viewer in some way, even much after the viewing is over, you know. It actually affects you, it shifts and changes you. And it does feel like sometimes the best of transmission is such. It is holistic rather than only rhetorical or intellectual. Because these are the transmissions that stay with you, make you think and feel, particularly in this vast ocean of images that are created every day. They're churned out every day, they're thrown at us, we consume them, and we don't know what's happening. So in this kind of communication, you know, complete sort of flood of images, why do we create images? What use is it? Is a question to be asked, you know. So, okay, the very last thing is that, you know, when we're studying cinema, I'm sure this is true for all of us, when we're studying cinema, when we're studying fiction or documentary, we are almost the first thing you learn when you're writing a script, let's say, is that in order to be credible, in order for the script to be successful or to be credible, don't stereotype people. Don't create cardboard characters, don't create stereotypes. Work with nuance and complexity, reflecting what most of us are like. We're a bunch of gray areas, you know, and so is life, actually. So the teacher always tells you not to present oversimplified, easily digestible versions, you know. We are taught to go beyond the first story that comes to your mind. Think of the second story. Think of the third story that comes to your mind, right? To move out of the stereotyping, to unlearn, to explore possibilities, to go beyond the habitual response. Genuinely, not just in a cosmetic way. And interestingly, I feel that's what we educators too have to do. In our search for a pedagogy suited for our times, we have to do the unlearning and we have to do the fresh start. We have to find methods that will genuinely benefit the learners and help them excel and cross boundaries. That's all. Thank you. I hope that was not.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And really, we are really overwhelmed that you are here and you're just putting your point here, which is very much just a key takeaway from your points that yes, we should be come up with all convention and it should be more holistic rather than rhetorical. And we should not be into a particular format or in particular shape on a bracket, move out at it and give your real imagination, understanding and talk to the people, talk to there, and don't just take out your copies and pasted thing that was just available in internet. We should not put it, and we rather give a lot of into understand their feelings, their thought process, at least in the part of their documentary, which is your takeaway, which is definitely fantastic. And I will definitely recommend this to all my students and everyone, those who are pursuing even. So in that way, we are also thinking a lot of things like that. Thank you so much for your presence, ma'am. And I'm really very glad that you shared your version. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just to say that this is a lesson not just for the students, but for the teachers.
Yeah, obviously. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I do believe and I really trust that this should be in that phase. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah. Here I would like to thank you so much, Samira ma'am, and for, I'm just taking ahead the session. Like here I would like to welcome our session chair of this webinar, Professor Amitav Srivastava. Namaskar, sir. I hope you are doing well. So, Professor Amitav Srivastava, who is the director of School of Media and Communication, Manipal University, Jaipur. And if you talk about the career and the vast plethora of work. Now, if you listen to him like that MHRD, Government of India selected him as an expert for developing the dictionary of journalism. He is the member of expert panel to develop the definition of journalism. The career of Professor Amitabh is a rare blend of high standards in academia and professional excellence in the field of journalism and mass communication. He's a UGC NET qualified, and after completing that, he completed his PhD from Lucknow University. Dr. Srivastava was contributed and in the field of media and communication and serving a senior positions in a very reputed organization in which there are few things in that. He was prior to joining Manipal Group, Professor Srivastava was a director of School and Journalism Mass Communication at International University of Noida, officiating Dean of Galgotia University, Greater Noida. And he was a program chair of PhD at Sharda University, coordinator of media and creative production to Dev Sanskrit University, and a founding faculty member of School of Journalism and Communication, Awadh University. His specialization includes script writing, intercultural communication, print media, development communication, etc. Even after joining Media Academia, his contribution to media industry is immensely gratifying, immensely a wonderful. Last 14 years, he has been writing script, documentary, filmmaking, and he's a columnist to the many journals and magazines. So more so that we can add, he scripted number of episodes of non-fiction program and that programs and documentaries, and that has been telecasted to the many prominent channels like ZTV, ETV, and Doordarshan. Welcome, sir. Kindly set the tone of this discussion and give you your valuable points about this discussion. Over to you, sir. I hope you can hear me.
Thank you, Navina. First of all, thanks to you for introducing me in this prestigious sort of the forum, and I'm overwhelmed because a long time interaction with Professor Ambarish Saxena, who is just like our big brother, and watching him on this particular screen, it gives me immense pleasure. And to all the dignitaries, the panel you have selected, apart from me, Ms. Samira, Mr. Amit Tyagi, Dr. Bokaro, Dr. Shant, and undoubtedly Ambarish sir and you. So this panel itself speaks about this particular organization. The GMAC, GCEC, and the personalities like the Ambarish sir, Ujjwal ji, and all those things, it matters a lot. And I have heard about that. You interacted with that, and but you know the pressures of the industry and the academia, and that's why today I got this particular opportunity to join you. The topic of this session matters a lot because it states about the new age cinema and then talks about the opportunities and all that. Samira ji has told a lot, and that makes the sense, and many beautiful points, many impressive points she has already communicated. But for me, I would like to emphasize what actually this new age cinema is. For me, as far as India is concerned, we have completed almost 108 years of cinema. And 108, there's a past number. The entire guidelines, so the one by one beats you count, and you just get the number 108. And it means a complete cycle is over. And I found that the originally the concepts which we imbibed, like the Dada Saheb Phalke, we were discussing in cinema the topics like mythologies, and again we are discussing the same things. Just discuss about the RRR, just discuss about the Bahubali, and just compare then the Bhartendu, the Raja Harishchandra and the Kaliya Mardan and all. But the complete cycle is over. And as Samira ji has told, that the age of the documentary is again with us. What actually we are doing, just like be the Sachin, the documentary, or this particular Kashmir files, there is a lot of content of you can say that the lines are being blended. You can't say that this is the documentary or this is the fiction. So that even for just like the journalism, we are having the gonzo sort of the journalism, where initially it was communicated, your own perspective must not come as far as the journalism is concerned. But right now we are having the gonzo sort of the journalism, where your own perspective matters a lot. And the anchors are communicating his own content and all that. So the entire spectrum, you may like it or dislike it, that's the different thing. But the thing is going on that the new age, what I am willing to say, that the new is not that much new. New is the completely old, like the fashion. The complete cycle we can find right now. RRR, the complete, we are discussing about the tribes, we are getting about the mythological characters, bigger than the life structure characters, all we are getting that. And what it means. And then we can think about the contribution of the campaign. The Hollywood worked on that particular concept. And right now the characters like the Batman, Superman, all that, they accepted that, and still there is the market for that. And we discarded the characters like we said that there were the characters like initially we were having the characters like the Kali Mardan and Mahabharat, and then we ridiculed our characters like the Narad and all those, and finally we get rid out of those. Now the cycle completed, and now we are respecting our own characters, religious and the mythological characters. So this is the step by step. Just the earth is, you can say that the round. If you move from one point, you will come to the same point. Again, just like if you for example, you leave your home and wander a bit, you are a great traveler, but at a certain point, you want to wish to come back to your home. You want to come back to your own Banaras. So that makes the sense that you will have to come back to your own basic point, and the contribution which Campbell made, 1,000 Faces of the Heroes, like the books, he established. Now you will have to focus on your mythologies, because mythologies lives in our genes. Mythology doesn't mean that these are the values which we have already imbibed, and with the help of these mythologies, once we create the characters, it connects with the audience. And that's why there is the appeal line. So, and you can say that there is mythology is not the synonym of the religion and all. Mythology means that the great value this country is having, the world is having, and that's why this part. And you just the success of RRR states the same thing. Worldwide, the film is being accepted. The success of Bahubali is being communicated. Can be researched in this part from this particular aspect. And if I come to the opportunities for the youngsters, the original thing is that they will have to, because they are the techno savvy, and technology right now is quite handy. So this particular media is going to give them the great opportunities. There is no doubt. But at the same time, there is a challenge that they will have to accept, they will have to imbibe those values too. And our curriculum will have to consider the content of that particular thing. And this is not about the one school of thought. The filmmakers like Anjum Rajawali, the Girish Karnad, they all are advocating for the same. Why we are not studying the content of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana? That matters. So again, the second aspect, what McLuhan has told, that every new media imbibes all other mediums. So what I personally feel, the charisma, I'm not saying the age, the charisma of journalism, especially from the journalism education, is over. It might be the controversial, but we will have to accept the charisma, because right now we are not having the role models like the Arun Shourie and those sort of the guys. Now big challenges are there. I'm not going to blame anyone of them. But right now, if you the age of the communication can't be over. So now this is the age of the film, and even the political parties are using this particular media to communicate their concepts. And we can't condemn that, because this is a democracy. Every political party needs to communicate, and every medium is open for all. So for long, this medium is being used, and right now everyone is. So if you simply analyze, or if I view the next few years, every political party will focus on this. Even earlier, it happened like the Hajar Chaura Sigma. There was one political party was behind that. If you think that the Kissa Kursi Ka, there was again party. Even the Hakikat and all those things, they were inclined towards one or another sort of the ideology. But right now, it is quite open. Political parties are advocating, okay, this particular concept is to be. And in the near future, we are going to watch them. So, a lot of opportunities are going to be present for the young filmmakers. They can choose any medium, they can choose any language, they can choose their own styles. Each and everything is available to them. The biggest challenge is for the teachers like us, whether we are ready to get rid of old syllabus, whether still we are willing to say that, okay, we are the print media student, because the medium, who is caring about the print media? The age of the written word will always be there in the form of the script. The age of the audio will always be there in the form of, in any media, be it the radio, be it the cinema. But if you say that, if you still advocate that the radio journalism, print media journalism, it creates the confusion for the young student. This is the time to rethink. This is the time to revisit our own syllabus. This is the time to ponder. And this is a big challenge. And I think the forum like this can create the wonders. Thanks a lot for providing me the opportunity. Thanks again to you, to Dr. Ambarish and the entire panelist. Basically, the work of the chairperson is just to listen that to all audience. And I would love to have to listen your words. But this is the deep felt sort of the concept. You can say that what I believe that I try to communicate. I think that if it can change a bit the viewpoints of young filmmakers, I would feel lucky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Amitav Srivastava. You're pointing out more of that. We should go back, take our old stories with a mythological story. We can blend it with today's generation and come out with a new stories. And the ideas and the stories, there are a plethora of stories out there. So we can put something on it and can give a tinge of modernity and can give to our audiences, and new filmmakers should come and read all those texts and can do their filmmaking. Thank you so much for chairing this session. Well, now here I'm doing the next announcement. So, well, it's so close to me and very much close to my heart, I can say. Global Communication Education Conclave, organized by Global Media Education, felicitating a Lifetime Achievement Award to Professor Amit Tyagi for his stellar contribution for film, communication, and media education. Before felicitation teaser, first I will just give a sum of that honor. First, I would like to give a brief lines to her vast career and contribution towards film and film education. So here I would like to say that, Professor Tyagi is a graduate, English graduated from University of Delhi. Then he completed his diploma in cinema from Film and Television Institute of India, specialization with film editing, and then post-diploma, he did cinema specialization in film direction from FTII, one of the very prestigious institute of film in India. He worked as assistant editor on Kundan Shah's film Jaane Bhi Do Yaro, written various episodes of television series for DD1, Then ZTV wrote and directed Camel, Goat, and Book for UNESCO, a short fiction. He wrote and directed a short film and Encountered, the Minister of Foreigner, Government of France. It is a short fiction. Wrote and directed My Guithania, a meeting for wide-angle vision for Nairobi, feature film for Exile and the Poor, feature film presented in the Forum, in the International Film Festival, Germany. If you look about his work experience in nonfiction, he has written and directed various feature stories for nonfiction television like Surabhi, Turning Point, feature, and he will talk about his feature-length documentary, The Karims, the Sporting Dynasty in Nairobi, Kenya, he worked in, short documentary with caregivers for PSBT Doordarshan, that is shown in DD1 and dubbed in 6 different Indian languages. He completed more than 100 documentaries by now. Now, if you talk about his work experience in administration, he commissioned and started a terrestrial television station in Uganda, East Africa. At that point of time in 1996 till 2000. He was the Dean of Film Department at Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. He's currently positioned as Associate Director, MIT School of Film and Television, Pune. His work experience as author, where he wrote various articles on cinema, cinema education in various academic and cinema journals, conceived and edited the book Being FTII, the book celebrating 60 years of Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. Professor Tyagi's work experience in film education, he set up and ran as a Pajoma Film Club in Nairobi, Kenya from 2002 to 2013, Africa's longest running film club. He coordinated annual summer film festival and coordinated the course in FTII. I'm really very much privileged that and I would take another addition that he is my teacher, friend, philosopher, guide in all thick and thin. And when one call, he really asked me and I asked him and he just agreed. Thank you so much and my heartiest congratulations. Before that, I would like and welcome Professor Saxena if he wants to take 2 words and before opening the teaser.
Yeah, thank you, Novina. So really, it's a matter of great pride and privilege for all of us. He is such a tall personality, Professor Amit Tyagi, and the kind of contribution that he has made to filmmaking and film studies is really immense. And all such people who are into filmmaking or who want to be a filmmaker, everybody look up to him. So we are really honored that GMAC and GSEC that we are proudly conferring this award, the Lifetime Achievement Award, on Professor Amit Tyagi. Yeah, the technical team can...
Yeah, technical team, can you please run the teaser? Thank you, and really a big congratulations to, I will take my sir, Amit Tyagi sir. So sir, over to you, sir.
First of all, a very big thanks to GMEC and GCEC for considering me for this kind of an award. I need to be very honest. My involvement with film education has been very recent and very small. I've been sharing my experiences or whatever little I know about filmmaking to with whoever cared to ask me. But as a formal educator, my experience is very little. And as my colleagues were pointing out, maybe it's too early to end a lifetime right now. Because typically when you get a lifetime award, you consider that now I've arrived, I'm at the end of my life, right? So I don't think I'm done for as yet. But let's move on from there. I mean, a big thanks are due. For a recognition by anybody is always very welcome. A recognition by fellow educators is even more welcome because it means you have done something which they feel is worth recognizing. So once again, thank you very much, Professor Saxena, Professor Amitabh Srivastav, Navina ji Banaraswali, and everybody else who was involved in making that decision. Now, if you like, and Navina ji permits, I can talk on the subject of discussion for a few minutes.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, what you have written as your topic is that you want to talk about what are the opportunities for budding filmmakers. First off, I could answer that question in absolutely 15 seconds and it would be legally and technically correct. That I would say, follow Eastman Kodak and make sure that they keep producing film for you to be termed a filmmaker, right? Now comes the larger question that we use the term filmmaker for anybody who happens to create not just film as a medium, but any digital means of producing moving images with sound. I want to repeat that. You are talking of anybody capable of producing moving images with sound. That, to me, is the current definition of a filmmaker, of what used to be a filmmaker in the days when film was king. I mean, just like Singh was king, as they say in India, the once upon a time film was king, but it's no longer so. It's no longer the truth. So what is the truth? What are the opportunities? Where are they? Well, they range from making videos for WhatsApp for share with your friends, to making movies for the big screen, which go on IMAX size screens, which are all over India now. Now, in between all this lies a whole ocean of opportunities. The main thing which a budding filmmaker has to decide whether he or she is going to make this a profession or whether, like Navina ji Banaraswali, it remains to be called Navina ji amateur, right? So you have to take the call that is this a hobby that I wish to retain, just like some people drive Porsches and Lamborghinis. I wish to make a few films. Or is it something that you wish to earn a living out of? Because the two have entirely different dimensions. Yes, they do overlap at times, but by and large, they have very different dimensions. Why do I say that? Because when you do your 1 minute reel on Instagram of yourself dancing or smiling or posing in your new clothes, whether you're male or female, I mean, that's a secondary thing. What are you doing? Are we calling those people as filmmakers or are we not? If you apply my definition, they are filmmakers. But traditionally, a filmmaker to us is somebody who made feature films. In India, we think everybody who didn't make feature films is a waste of time. He or she is not a filmmaker. My dear friend Samira Jain and I have both struggled for donkey's years being called non-filmmakers because we never made a feature film, right? So we have to first look at our definitions very closely because everything follows from that. When we talk of filmmakers as being only feature filmmakers and gear up all our educational academic syllabuses and practicals and stuff which we teach, all geared towards either journalistic ventures or towards feature films, are we doing injustice to a lot of the opportunities which are opening up in new media? I mean, if you look at just one silly example of the number of Indians who are now simply earning a living off YouTube, the number is almost the same as the Bombay cinema industry, which is considered India's big achievement. If you look at an even larger phenomenon, if you look at the number of village in India, you can find them today. Is any one of us teaching them? No, we are not. Do they represent an industry? Absolutely. They are bigger than Reliance for all practical purposes. If you add up the money which every video and event shooting man or woman earns across India, it'll equal the turnover of Reliance, if not more. Are we addressing that part of the problem? We are not. Why? Because we are Brahmins. We only deal with feature films. We don't know documentaries of high end. We don't deal with anything else. Everybody else is a Shudra, a lower caste man for us. We don't want to deal with them. So somewhere down the line, we have to get rid of this casteism inherent in our own thinking, which gets reflected in our academic activities. And we need to decide that, look, guys, moving images with sound are all prevalent in our world and are going to be increasingly so, much more than we imagine. They will have to be taught, the making of images will have to be taught like making of PowerPoint presentations in every business school sooner or later, whether you like it or not. If you're studying an MBA, you got to make a presentation. Similarly, everybody will sooner or later have to learn how to use moving images, which may not qualify him or her as a visual artist, but we will have to cater to that demand at some point in time, which is right now a glaring lacuna in all our academic worlds. We have to start offering filmmaking courses as non-core subsidiary courses at all our university levels. I'm sure it's possible to have that whole thing working out. Now, moving beyond that to what Navinaji Banaraswali calls budding filmmakers. Where do the budding filmmakers overlap, jump over from making vlogs and making Instagram reels into feature films? Or do they really want to jump over? A lot of the people I know who work on YouTube and who make money out of YouTube videos which they post are not bothered with feature film. They don't give a damn. They don't want to make story films. They think Hollywood and Bombay are all, dead ducks. That matter is ended. Beyond that, you have a lot more newer kinds of storytelling coming up in video games. India is innovating a lot in video games. Practically every 2 weeks, I get somebody. I mean, my university is very strong on technology and computer engineering and stuff like that. And we have a very strong incubation center. And every couple of weeks, I get somebody saying, I want to make a new video game. Can you help me write it? I have to, look at my people and say, can any of you guys help him? All my students are willing. All my faculty is not willing to help him write a video game. They don't have a clue how to go about it. How do you write these interactive storylines with multiple endings and multiple turns and twists and stuff? How do you do it? We don't teach it. Classically, we teach Eisenstein and we teach Godard, then we come down to Quentin Tarantino and Chris Nolan if we are fashionable. Otherwise, we end it at Spielberg and we'll be very happy about it. For India, you end at, at Mr. Rai or Manikol, and that's about it. then what happens? Where does that lead you in today's world? Where does that leave you when somebody comes to you says, okay, here's a story from the Mahabharata. Can you please help me create a video game out of it? Can you write it down for me? And we say, sorry, boss, we don't know what to do. Of course, we don't say it. We couch it in grand eloquence of big words that we are Brahmins and we don't do such things. But fact of the matter is we don't know what to do. Neither can we teach. Those are shortcomings in our academic systems, which we need to address as educators. And only then will we really gearing up our budding filmmakers for the future. Because remember, the kid who's studying today is not making films from next year. He's making films 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. He's going to survive till the age of 80 making films. What the hell will be the nature of the world? What is the skill that I'm teaching him? When I look back on my own career and I look back on the tools with which I learned filmmaking of chemical, fastening things and editing things and all kinds of stuff, what remains? None of that goddamn technology remains. It's all gone. So what remains? What remains is the skill. How do moving images communicate with human beings? How do they tell stories of human beings? How do moving images interact with each other? That is the skill which is going to remain regardless of where you take it, whether you take it to your WhatsApp video, you take it to your iMac screen, or you take it to a video game, or whether you take it to a YouTube video. Those are the skills which will remain. Now, how seriously your student wants to take it, does he want to make a living out of it? Does he want to remain an amateur? Those are choices best left to students. They will decide what to do. Navina ji, is that enough for a talk?
Well, sir, it's definitely, and I can absolutely correlate you, and you do a lot of things because you can do it because you are my teacher. So that's why you have all the things that I'm listening. Yes, yeah. Sometime if I talk about it, amateur, why because I always inspired by some of the one when Satyajit Ray was making his film, he took some of the amateur people and somehow he was doing what he wanted to do and feel like, and he took some people and started the story, and he never knew that it will be a landmark thing forever, and that's the thing, that's the time I took the word from amateur, and definitely my professional skills is my teaching and what I'm doing it. So definitely that is a part of my, as a part of
no, hold on. Does that mean that if tomorrow somebody offers you money to cover his destination, you are going to reject it because you are an amateur in status? If I was an old-fashioned sports person, I would say you have to reject the money. If I'm a newfangled guy, I would say take the money and run, man. Let's do it.
So I need to ask that whether Opu got the money or not, and that's the way I will relate it to it. And thank you so much. And I'm so privileged that I'm being a student of yours, and you held my hand, and just make sure that what FTI gives you and that kind of, thank you so much. And here I will just extend this topic, and one person is constantly, I'm just sitting, that gentleman is constantly stick and, listening to everything. Beside he's staying very far right now and meeting for the first time all these people, and so none other than I would take this opportunity to just introduce a person that Dr. Bukhare Savadogo, that I never met him, but when I wrote a message to him, he was so very kind to reply me back, and he thought that he would be here and be discussing here. Welcome and namaste, Dr. Bukhare Savadogo, and I'm really privileged and honored that I'm just invited. You are here and constantly listening to us and being a part of this wonderful panel. So let me, handing over to the baton, I would love to describe something about you. So Dr. Bukhare Savadogo is an associate professor of cinema studies and Black studies at the City College of City University of New York in the Department of Media and Communication and Arts. He's originally from the West African nation in Burkina Faso. He is an academician, author, filmmaker, founding director of Harlem Africa Animation Festival. He has published extensively on African cinemas. In addition to his forthcoming African Film Studies and Introduction, second edition with Routledge in 2023, Dr. Savadogu was already published 3 books on African cinema, including West African Screen Media, comedy TV series, and Transnationalization in Michigan State University, and many more. As a specialist of African cinema, he has served as a jury member to several film festivals in United States, in Canada, Europe, and Africa. Dr. Bokhare is a member of many high-profile film commissions tasked with the funding and promotion of African cinema. Also, Dr. Bokhare Savadogu is a regular guest speaker on television and radio, such as BBC, Voice of America, LCA Television, Omega TV, RTV, etc., addressing topics pertaining to the African cinema and the situation of African immigrants in the United States. Welcome, Dr. Bokhare Savadogu. We are really, really honored to have you, and you can emphasize your version. This is your stage, and welcome to a virtual mode of Indian connection. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Novina, for kindly extending the invitation, which I gladly accepted. That's why I'm here. And thank you to the esteemed panelists, and also to the audience members. And to be honest, I'm familiar with Bollywood cinema, to be honest, but to have a conversation with scholars and practitioners, I'm really overjoyed to be here. And before I start, I want to take my hats off to everybody, and I want to echo what, if I butcher your names, I'm sorry, Amit Tiagi. Yeah, because I really like how you frame it, because my talk today will be on this. This is the first edition of my film education book, and my talk today is about the one chapter from the upcoming second edition, and it's part of the chapter on industry, because for most African film, cinema studies, nobody talk about education, and nobody talk about education or even about the industry. If I told you that this is the first ever film education book on African cinema, you would say, how comes this shouldn't happening? And because the point you brought, what is filmmaking, what is cinema today? I think this question need to be asked, because up to now, we are still in the traditional way of cinema is a feature length and cinema is on celluloid. We are reluctantly accepting a digital means of storytelling. But just to echo, Professor Amit, thank you. So my conversation today is, I don't know if I can share my screen or not.
Absolutely, you can share your screen, definitely. You are the co-host, so you can obviously share the screen. Just a minute.
Just, I don't want to run.
Please, technical team, can please make Dr. Bokhare a co-host so that he can share his screen. Yeah, can you please try once that you can share your screen?
Okay, let's.
The green button at the bottom, share screen, if you just, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see it. See that.
Okay. So I wanted to have us a conversation on something, a phenomenon that is having an effect on globally, but particularly on Africa. So that's why I titled my conversation, "The Streaming Rush for Africa, the New Frontier." Because if the Western rush for extraction of African minerals and natural resources is well established in the public discourse, the streaming rush for Africa has only started to gain momentum recently. So I'm going to start with the global shift in film and media landscape to give us a context for how Africa fits into that when it comes to streaming. Larger shift in film and media distribution globally are fast changing, from delivery platform to consumption patterns. For instance, the one industry norm of 90 days exclusive theatrical window in the US has shortened by half, whereas in certain cases, movies are simultaneously released in theaters and on streaming platforms, if not exclusively on streaming platforms such as Netflix, which is universally true. These sweeping changes are driven by video and digital technological innovation and the transnational reach of US tech and media entertainment giants. For the continent of Africa, in its diverse film and media tradition and practices, these changes not only call for a rethinking of the economics of the image and media, which is what is the best economic model, but also addressing the opportunities and challenges for African creatives. The streaming market in Africa features several transnational media companies, including Showmax, Apple, Amazon, and Disney Plus, which is set to be launched in South Africa next month in May. They shifted to digital terrestrial television from analog television broadcasting, and the corporate intervention of streaming giant in Africa have significantly changed the landscape of distribution and exhibition of film and TV serials on the continent since the mid-2000s. According to the UNESCO report released late last year in October 2021, titled The African Film Industry, Trends, Challenges and Opportunities for Growth, the South African multi-choice currently has 20.1 million subscribers, Chinese Star Times with 7.8 million subscribers, and French Canal Plus with 6 million subscribers are leading this segment of the market on the continent. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the pace of sweeping changes with the ripple effects of pandemic lockdown-induced binge watching, which has further impacted mode and format of film and media consumption, even in countries with lesser reported COVID cases, such as in Africa. The South African-based video on-demand service, Showmax, and the American companies Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon Prime are not only providing streaming services, but they are also contributing to ushering in a new era for African cinemas in terms of economics. The intervention of Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Apple Studios has so far taken the forms of licensing deals of African films, multi-project development, and production deals involving African directors in studios. So far, we can say there is no investment, a long-term investment. Film and television projects range from historical drama, action series, to animated series. Serialization of content is one of the characteristic traits of these streaming giants for the subscription-based economic model, which is certain to have an impact on aesthetics, form, format across productions. Now let's move to growth potential and challenges in Africa. The growth potential of the African media market is immense, prompting ever-increasing significant creative production and business investment by local stakeholders and foreign companies. Africa is a market of 1.4 billion consumers, with 2/3 of the continent population being under 30 years of age. Netflix keeps expanding its footprints on the continent through content production in addition to distribution, which the streaming giants has long been associated with. Showmax is currently in 45 out of 54 countries in Africa, offering films and serials in several African languages. Besides streaming, theatrical distribution also continues to be active amidst the often contradictory policies of movie theater renovation and, on the other end, movie theaters being closed. For instance, Cine Burkina and Cine Nerwaya in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, in my home country, are full to capacity whenever locally made films are shown. A visitor to Lagos Island in Nigeria is equally surprised to see the number of fully equipped modern movie theaters in operation. The chain of Calan Olympia movie theaters in the Francophone African capital has been part of the landscape since the mid-2000s. Parallel distribution networks developed by business-savvy young people are also diversifying and complexifying the practice of film exhibition. These young entrepreneur directors organize showings of the films in villages and in mid-sized cities in Burkina Faso, bypassing theatrical and streaming distribution outlets. Similar patterns exist in other African countries. The intervention of streaming companies in African film and media landscape present both opportunities and challenges for African creatives. Netflix could bring global exposure and funding opportunities through licensing deals and direct commitment to supporting the emergence of local sustainable film industries and production of original, such as Queen Sono and Blood and Water, which are the first Netflix African originals that were released in 2020. Similarly, Showmax brings relatable local stories and realities to the screen for African audiences. However, streaming services in Africa still face challenges regarding consumer experience and the question of what would be the best economic model. Among those challenges are the lack of transnational payment infrastructure, so which means it's very difficult to consume the same content from one country to the next. And also one of the challenges is getting more users into the habit of paying for online content, and also having a reliable electric grid, and also solving the problem of a slow, expensive internet. Another obstacle is that most of Netflix Africa's originals, be it films or series, are readily available to subscribers on the continent, echoing and accentuating an old pattern of global north-oriented distribution of African cinema, which further alienates Africans from content about or on Africa and produced locally. Also, African film and television stakeholders now face the responsibility of successfully leveraging the intervention of the global media giants in Africa for the emergence of sustainable local industries through investment in infrastructure, human capital development, and a thriving economic model. If not, this streaming rush will just be another example of extraction of resources and creativity from the continent for capitalistic gains. Certain streaming companies have recently started programs designed to train creative talents on the continent, including the launch early this year in January of Netflix Creative Equity Scholarship Fund of $1 million investment to train film and television students in sub-Saharan Africa, starting with the Southern African Development Community, SADC region. Are such initiatives designed to be a creative pipeline for content by Africans, or just another self-serving corporate marketing strategy? Or is it a mutually beneficial commitment to education on performing arts? It is relatively early to critically assess the long-term commitment of these training initiatives or the structural impact of such programs in building local, sustainable African film and television ecosystem. Now, I want to end with beyond streaming, which is, looking at the next 5 to 10 years. What is the challenge? What are the opportunities? The first one is for African cinema is exploring alternative financial technologies, which is ancillary to the question of distribution and accessibility of African film, particularly African film heritage, because you have thousands of copies of African films that are held, copyrighted, or owned by Western production companies and public institutions through funding mechanism. And you have also this challenge of accessing archives on African filmmakers who have been purchased by American universities, which means you have a larger part of African cinema that cannot be accessed. And alternative funding, alternative financial technologies, you have, here I'm posing the question, if African cinema should not experiment with the NFTs, which so far has gained more interest in art and the music world than in cinema, because the perennial question, the perennial issue facing African cinema has always been, what are the funding mechanisms? Maybe the funding mechanism, maybe we need to move beyond the state being the main funder of cinema, or multilateral organization being the funder of African cinema. So, and I touched earlier on restitution of African cinema. Old copies of African cinema is only starting to gain interest in the public discourse, because so far the focus has been on the restitution of African art, which has been taken during colonial times. But the question for African cinema when it comes to its archives will need to be addressed. So this is it. So I want to be very short, and so that we can have a more lively.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bokhare Sawadogu. You just gave a lot of insight about African cinema, and really you talked about the global shift of film and media landscape and serialization of the content, the growth and potential challenge of the African cinema, alternative financial, technological things that have been initiated by the country and the filmmakers, which has been great. And you talked about the restitution of the film and the old film, which is really incredible. I'm so glad that you are a part of this esteemed panel and shared your version. And we are really enlightened about some of the factors of African cinema and the insight about it. Thank you so much for being here. And in that mode, I would like to welcome another person. So in the panelists, so one would be the eminent media speaker, then keynote speaker, another person that always we welcome, the corporate person who can understand the education and the mainstream and can put into that. So one person I worked with more than 10 years association, because he is from Jagra and I worked there. So I chasing him because why I did that, because he is a part of film festival for the longest, more than 10 years, and ran largest film festival in India, film festival. Here I would like to welcome Mr. Prashant Kashyap. Hi, Prashant. I hope you are doing well. So I'm just inviting our corporate speaker, Mr. Prashant Kashyap, who is the General Manager of Brand and Strategy from Jagran Prakashan Limited. So just I will give a little brief about Prashant, so that he never gives his detail to me all the time, but whatever little I gather, because he never will give me so much to me. So he's a graduate from Presidency College, and he's a two inclination toward Kolkata, postgraduate from JNU with political science, and started his career with Times of India. And thereafter, he worked many leading brands such as Hindustan Times. At present, he is in Dainik Jagran, the largest read newspaper in India. And his 10 brand campaign designed by Mr. Kashyap won Wafrina and INMA awards. Being a cinema and literature enthusiast, he is curated and directed largest traveling film, that is Jagran Film Festival, and he's the festival director of the Hindi Literature Festival in Lucknow, Samvadi. Recently, Mr. Prashant has written screenplay for 2 short films called Pattern and Turban. Both the films are well acceptable and received in the International and Global Film Festival. And he has been a wonderful person who can understand the film people, and the festival pattern and the creative film as well. So my heart is welcome to Mr. Prashant Kashyap to throw some light in this topic and his version of the topic. Thank you so much. Over to you,
Thank
Prashant.
you, Navina. Thank you very much, Navina. And I hope I'm audible.
Of course.
Okay, fine. So before I congratulate Mr. Amit Tyagi, I would like to appreciate the word that you said, that you have been chasing me. Yes, it is like it is like chasing, because I mean, I always feel that I'm not such a great orator, and also I'm a shy speaker. So it is only Novina who can pull me to his screens or mics. I mean, so anyway, I mean, it's like a pleasure being a part of such an eminent panel and being witness to the award that has been given to Mr. Tyagi, and all the very best and congratulations for him. So I have been listening to all of you, and sorry, Novina, I mean, I heard 2 of your speakers when I was driving back home from office. So, well, when we talk about coming to the topic, then when we talk about new age cinema, I am always confused whether this new age is what we used to call new wave in 60s, that started in 60s. And if this new age and new wave are same, then I always feel that this new age or new wave is an umbrella term for cinema, for fashion, for politics, for lifestyle, and for so many things. And then I also, sometimes think that how new is this new? Because and what is new about this new? I mean, is it like someone has never tried it and therefore it is new, or is it like rejecting old and therefore it is new, or is it like getting into abstract and traveling somewhere and letting your imagination go somewhere, which is like which has been a virgin land? So this new always confuses me. And new age, when we say new age, then after as Mr. Amitabh was saying that the earth rotates, and so I always feel that the new wave is always a corridor, say the corridor space between 2 major mainstreams. That's how I look at it. Like, one get bored from certain kind of a mainstream and then goes through that corridor, and then we enter into another room of mainstream, where we bring that new age and new wave ideas with us to the mainstream. So that's how I look at the new age. But in the present time, when I see And also from an aesthetics point of view, like new age, aesthetics and production point of view, new age was like a very radically positioned the ideas, and the new wave was about out of studio production. The new wave was about abstract photographies, abstract capturing of the moment. So new wave had so many characteristics, and taking a hint from there, what is new age or new wave at this point of time? Of course, one of the, I mean, new wave also had that realism in it also. There was an aspect of realism also. So taking that hint from there, after this post this OTT platform that has come to India, and with the new technologies that has been introduced to the world, India, is a huge content producing and content consuming country as well. And what I see here is that this whole money is being pumped by Netflix, by Amazon, by Disney, and by so many other 10 players in creating homegrown content. And when we say homegrown content, then there are two kinds of homegrown content. Of course, one is for the bigger screen, where these days the mainstream is like overwhelmed by larger than life kind of characters being screened. But on the OTT platforms, where there is no appointment viewing, and the viewer themselves decide what to choose, and in their own time and space, there I see that the homegrown content is about seeking for something realistic, and packaged in a very dramatic manner. So when I say this, the newfound new age realism in India is the language. And when I say language, as Mr. Tyagi put it up very well, that cinema is an art of, it's a combination of moving images and sound. And the sound is not only about the sound produced by the musical instruments. The sound is also about the language. The sound is also about the tools that we use for communicating an ideas. So when I say language, then whenever any medium use language, it tends to become a literature also. And therefore I say that cinema in India has not done justice to its literature part. In a sense, I'll come back for the new realism of language also, but I have to put a context to it. Therefore, I'm talking about it. So we have not been very fair enough in putting the literature part of language. While literature is a very fair medium of expressing emotion, a fair medium of expressing ideas, a fair medium of communicating emotion, and the fair medium of also establishing identities. Here cinema had been very racist, in a sense that cinema always tried to use a very neutral language. And that neutral language was always used by the protagonist or the main characters of the screenplay. Here you see that we have stereotyped in a form of language I'm talking. We have stereotyped people, we have stereotyped regions. Like in India, if you see cinema, the Bengali will speak certain kind of Hindi. They will talk in a certain style. Punjabis will use certain kind of vocabularies, and they will talk in certain manner. Biharis will talk in certain kind of vocabularies, and they will talk in certain manners, and so is with the South Indians. Then I don't know if the whole of the India has been stereotyped, then who are the people who are talking so neutral language on our screen? I mean, even if the protagonist or the hero that we call, or the main lead actor, if is from the same kind of a background from where his parents are coming on his screen, or his friends are coming on his screen, he will always talk, he or she will always have a very neutral language, while his ambience, his surroundings, his neighborhood will have a certain will have a very distinct way of talking. You can see lots of many films in India that has been done so. And therefore I say that Indian film had been a little bit racist, and also it had been elitist also, in a sense that, you see, I mean, most of most of the Hindi songs that we hear, most of the Hindi songs that like all the pure form of, like when the Hindi is used in its pure form, used in pure vocabulary, then all those songs has been presented to us in a very, like, in a very comedy manner, in a very humorous manner, like Priya Praneshwari Hridayeshwari Aap Hame Adesh Kare to Prem Ka Hum Sri Ganesh Kare. So it means to say that if you are talking in a language which is pure, in a language, in a vocabulary which is very close to dictionary or very close to literature, then it has to be in a comedy, it has to be presented in a comedy way. So it created its own elitist languages, and that was called the mainstream language of cinema. Now here, when I say that the newfound new age realism is language, it means, what I want to say is that the languages that are being used to portray the backyards of India, whether you see it in Mirzapur, whether you see it in Panchayat, whether it's, I mean, all these homegrown content which are being screened on OTT platforms. And here, the way the language is spoken, the way the vocabulary is being presented are more important than the character themselves. So this new realism is, I think, is more challenging for us than, and I don't know where it will move to, because if it's the corridor of between two mainstreams, then I don't know where it is going to move ahead. Because as I see that the curse words and the abusive languages, they have become the part of our bedrooms screening. They have become the part of our family viewership. So this new, and therefore I see this language, and it has also come because, as I always say, that cinema has its own literary responsibility. So I see people getting skilled in handling cameras and wanting to make films. I see people getting skilled in editing and wanting to make films. I see people working on sound engineering and wanting to make films, but I hardly find people reading literature, getting close to the language, and then wanting to make film. So but right now, if I would say that, like Godard once said that the cinema is farewell to language, but it didn't happen really. So the cinema cannot, thrive without language and without sound. So when there is a sound, when there is a language, when there is a communication, when there is vocabulary, when there is a composition of sentences, when there is a composition of dialogues, then there has to be literature. And I always feel that the new budding cinema makers and the students should take out time to read language and to understand the literature of India or of the globe, so that they can make better use of language in their cinema making process. So this is one thing that I always think about. The second thing that I want to point it out is about the opportunities. See, opportunities, of course, if you just want to show a moving image or create reel or something of that sort for the screen, good enough. I mean, and I'm not being elitist here, as Mr. Tyagi said, but when you have called me as a corporate speaker, then I would always say that the grammar of corporate is about profit. Okay, and cinema is it's a huge canvas and huge investment the product. So and every media, every media needs a capital, and the capital needs a profit, and capital needs needs its money back. So being artistic and being and choosing it as a livelihood, and livelihood for profit, and profit for the money that you have bought to that you have bought, or you have borrowed to create to convey your idea on a screen. So I think the new the students and new filmmakers who are aspiring filmmakers, I should be saying, they have to think about it, and they have to think about it seriously, because if one kites kind of a film fails, and it's a huge loss, and it affects the livelihood of so many people. So if you will have to be very careful about it also, and that doesn't mean that I'm asking you to get into a corporate trap. But you can see filmmakers like Sudhir Mishra, who has always made films on his terms, on his and he has never compromised about the box office, but yet he made money out of those films. He made money for the producers, he made profit for themselves, for himself and the people working in it. So it's not about compromising on the content, it is also about being having the conviction. Like we talk about Bahubali, we talk about the recent RRR, but then it is about Makhi also, that Rajamouli directed, and he was like very well convinced about that this animated character will fetch me money, and this animated character will give earning opportunity to so many people. So making cinema just for yourself and for your friends around and for any of the screen is one thing, and making cinema for your livelihood and for the larger screen and for and to get into industry and a professional setup are two different things. So on this very day, I would always suggest, because even when we say that we make film for festival circuits, or we make film for ourselves, or we make film for a purpose, fine, everything is I respect that. But even if it's for cinema festival circuits, since I'm a person who takes care of brand also, so even if it's for the cinema circuit, it's about your own brand enhancement, your personal brand enhancement too. So it's again something that you are asking back from your cinema. People should know you, people should appreciate your art, and people should appreciate your art, and then they know you also. So the whole the business module of cinema is about exhibition and getting the money back, and that's how it runs. Otherwise, whole lot of the screen will survive and cinema will die. So so we have to respect that industry also, and we have to respect its business module also. New age, new wave will keep on coming. It's a repetition. It will keep on coming. And as I said, it's a corridor from going from one mainstream room to another mainstream room. And what will be common throughout will be the language. And then it started with talkies, and it will grow. It will grow, and it will grow more. We all have witnessed how the dialogues have become the part of our life, and the Gabbar Singh's dialogue, or the Mirzapur's dialogue, or any of the dialogues, like even Tujhse na ho paega kind of a small dialogue in from Gangs of Wasepur. So these dialogues becomes the part of our life. So the language needs to be learned to get I mean, to get into this business of making cinema. That is one thing. And I'm very hopeful about cinema also, because as you know, in India, the first film produced was Raja Harishchandra by great Phalke Sahab. And Raja Harishchandra is about the hope of truth being I mean, it was about the truth being prevailed, the winning of truth. I mean, so I'm quite hopeful about the whole process of truthfulness in making cinema. And that's what I would like to say to all the participants that I can see here, around 24 participants right now. And I'm pretty sure that half of them will be students too. So what I would say is that be true while you are writing a script or capturing a shot, because any corruption, and that's how the Mumbai industry talks about that ye writer corrupt ho gaya hai. And when we say that writer corrupt ho gaya hai, it means he has given up to the stereotype of the industry. So if you have the conviction, even your makhi can bring out results. Thank you, Navina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Because why I asked you in the panel, because it's equally as going YouTube live as well, but because I have seen you working on the largest film festival for 10 long years and working equally to the corporate sector, to the creative sector, and plus, coming up with the writing sector, as you are also an avid writer. So I know, but one question one of my colleague is asking, and I think it's to you, she is asking, what about the parallel cinema? Do you suggest we have to keep in mind the market strategy to sell it well?
Well, see, any investments needs a return. Okay, and this the multi-screen exhibition has really helped parallel cinema. I mean, those were the times when parallel cinema didn't used to get. I mean, on single screen, of course, you know how the exhibitor used to behave. But here, with around 10-12 screenings happening on one single day at one venue, with 3-4 screens in the same venue, and that's how the multi screens are. So you will see that most of the parallel. And what is parallel cinema? Like let's I mean, it's time to move ahead of it now. The parallel cinema was a wave. That's why again I said that was again a new age or new wave of 80s, or maybe late 70s, I should be saying. So there was a new wave in 60s. And see the kind of new wave we have in 60s, like Guide. I mean, imagine. I mean, it's like whether it was a commercial film or whether it was a new wave cinema, because the kind of feminist character it had. I mean, Wahida Rahman's character, no one could have ever imagined in 50s and 60s about a woman leaving her husband and running away with a guide, and then justifying her role and people still loving her on the screen. So that was a new wave, I should be saying. So the parallel and the mainstreams, like say Mother India also. I mean, it was again a very different kind of a movie when Kanhaiyalal calls Nuta, what was Nargis at home, and he wants to get closer to her, and he sees her dipped in that soil, पूरे मिट्टी में भिंगी हुई है, उसमें उसको देवी नजर आने लगती है 1 सेकंड के बाद, and उसको हिम्मत नहीं होता है छूने का. So this was a new wave. So new wave has always been into mainstream. It has always been there. It has never been like. Can you imagine a thorough commercial movie like Sholay, where a ससुर जी wants कि उसकी बहू की शादी एक लफंगे से हो जाए, and she gets settled. She gets a life partner. Not settled is a wrong word, but she gets a life partner. And when Amitabh Bachchan dies, the same widow Bahu is crying on the shoulder of her Sasurji for that Lafanga character. So this was a new wave. So new wave is always there packaged somewhere in between. And then new wave cinema, of course, I agree that new wave cinema are like aesthetically, it has to be different. It had been different also. But as I said, mainstream borrows thoughts from new wave. So new wave is a kind of a teacher which comes in between, correct the course, and then the new thing starts. So parallel cinema se baat aage बढ़ गई है. We are sharing. The cinema is like a shared kind of a thing now. बड़ी बातें बहुत ही commercial movies में भी रख के आराम से लोग निकाल रहे हैं बाहर. And of course, the screening has multiplexes has helped this parallel cinemas, I would say.
Yeah, humongous amount. I don't know if a few questions are coming out, but right now it's 9:30. For meanwhile, I will ask before Professor Amrit Saxena, sir. But I'm here also. Can see Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary. He is the man. He's one of the very important pillar of this organization and a very senior academician and a part of media sector and a professional too. And both of them are here. First, I would like to ask UKC sir to say a few lines, and then I would like that Professor Saxena sir should end up the session to give you thanks. And I'm really overwhelmed that all of my panelists are here and giving all of thoughts, and especially the attendees and the participants and my colleagues are also raising some questions. You can even look at the chat box right now immediately. And over to you, UKC sir, and thank you for giving me all this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Navina ma'am. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. I was in some physical meets in the earlier part of the program and could join from our keynote speaker onwards, Bokhari Swadego, Professor Bokhari Swadego. And thank you for joining us from Africa, Professor Swadego. It's such a pleasure. I had been to 3 countries, Ethiopia, Ghana, and South Africa. These 3 countries only.
That's already good. That's already good. Thank you.
And hope to be seeing other parts of Africa as in the past, in the future. I had been to AUCC, African University of Creativity and Communication in Ghana. Okay, and also I'm very happy that we could get a senior academic and a mentor like Professor Amit Tyagi, and it's indeed a pleasure that we could have him with us and honor him for his lifelong contribution to media and communication education. I would like to note that as per our practice, we'll be coming out with a book of the 75 award winners of 75 evenings. I think today is the 59th evening, Navina, 58?
So 68.
60, okay, wow. So 15 more to go, 68th. So 15 more to go in this month. Actually, by 30th of April, we'll be finishing the series. We started in October 2021, and we're coming out of the book with 75 jewels of Indian media education titled, and all the award winners, their profiles, and one article from them on their work and picture that would go there. Then also the other speakers, I'll request them to cooperate with today's leader, Madam Novina, to get your summary of your talks as well. We are coming out with the second book, which is Reflections in Contemporary Media and Communication, which will be on the various write-ups of the speakers, foreign and Indian both. The third book is about the research papers. Today there was no research paper, it seems, but already 65 or 67 research papers have been presented so far in the earlier sessions. So 50 of them selected, and many more would be submitted in the next few days as well. So that is the third book. We are coming out with 3 books. Each day, for example, now it's 2 hours, this program has been going on. So each day's program is being edited into a 1-hour package, compact package, which will also be shared through YouTube and will be shared to 700 plus media schools and institutes. Listing has been done. So that is the third use of this program, apart from those who have attended today live. Also in the process, we are getting more than 500. It's already 350 plus. So more than 500 speakers across 75 days. And these 500 speakers are from 75 are foreign speakers, as you can understand, every day one foreign speaker. And the rest are largely Indians, but not necessarily all academicians. Industry people like our Prashantji here, and also many academicians, even people from the government sector of communication as well. So this is a great network that has been created online. We intend to go offline as well. I, as the Secretary of Global Media Education Council, I'll be going to several of the institutes in the next 10 days, including that of our Vice President, Dr. Ambarish Saxena. He is the Dean of DME Media School. I'm there as well. I'm also at the University of our President, Professor KG Suresh, which is Makhulal Chaturvedi University in Bhopal, and several other universities and institutes will be having physical roundtables, and we'll move to entire nation's academicians, media academicians invited for a physical meet in Darjeeling in October and a global meet in Dhaka in January. So in this process, an organization of media academics and a few practitioners starting from Indian soil in the 75th year of its history is gradually trying to become a global phenomenon. We already have vice presidents from 9 countries, and we intend to make it further grow as we do the other programs ahead. And many of these 75 foreign speakers are also joining in various capacities. I just wanted to tell this organizational brief as well, along with the topics that has been discussed. I'm not getting into the topic as such. I have my own thoughts on the alternative or the new cinema that's coming up. There are a lot of new cinema which is close to reality, as I was telling about Jai Bhim or Masan or on many other such cinema, which are very close to the reality of our lives, both urban and rural. And these cinema, in my opinion, provide a opportunity of a new wave in cinema, current contemporary new wave in cinema, distinctly different from the Bhuvan Som wave of 1960s. Mrinal Sen's Bhuvan Som, we are aware, and that wave of 1960s, which Prashantji just now mentioned. So, and I also believe that now cinema is transcending the feature film concept to various forms of audiovisual content. So audiovisual content can purely go into television, can purely go into the web alone, without also getting to be seen in the theaters. There is a film by one of our mentors, Mr. Vivek Vaswani, who has spoken earlier in these sessions. This film is called Rough Book. It has not seen a theater, but it has already earned 3 times of the investment through purely, narrow casting, having shown in universities, colleges and all. It talks about education and the problems of education in a story format, a rough book. The name of the film is Rough Book. Now, there are several such films also coming up. So theater release is not the only way of doing cinema. There are other forms of cinema and other ways of showing to the people, but surely money has to be earned. Whatever investment has been done, that and something more has to be earned. Need not necessarily be using the government the wrong way as the Kashmir Files has done, but at least in multiple ways, money has to be earned so that another good cinema can be born out of that. Then alongside the Bollywood and other things are there, we had a discussion in this season, in this series, on how Avatar could manage to earn $7 billion and be dubbed into 27 languages across the world, which is the highest revenue earning film ever in the world. How it could do that, we had a discussion, very good discussion, with someone from the team of Avatar who had come here, John Butcher, some time ago. So I thank everyone who has contributed to this discourse. I believe that the 3 books and the 75 short films which will come up by 15th August would be actually reflecting sincerely the contemporary trends, research issues, and thoughts in media and communication of all types. We had sessions on advertising, we had sessions on public relations, on OTT. The last session was on OTT. Today it's on cinema, new age cinema. We had sessions surely on journalism from many angles, climate, minorities, Dalits. Such sessions were also done. Journalism of protest, that was also done. Fabulous. And this April 14, we'll have another session focused on media and the Dalit rights. Because April 14, as we know, is connected to Dr. Ambedkar's memory, as we all know. So I will not take any more time. I thank today's leader and our working committee's valued member, Professor Navina Chakraborty of Adamas University, for taking this initiative in a short time and bringing all the people together and making this successful. Thank you, and back to you, Navina.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all the esteemed panelists and guests. Really a heartfelt thanks to everyone, all the listeners over the globe who are watching. And it's a YouTube live. We are listening. I'm really overwhelmed. And I always feel that in mass communication, film is one of the very integral part. We should not take film like this and journalism like this. We are a part of that media fraternity in a broad way that we are doing. Thank you so much. And one last thanks from Professor Amit Saxena, sir, and here I would end the session.
Ambarishji, before you speak, there is Professor Monica Gore is asking a question for Amitji. Can I repeat the question and request Amitji to answer? That will help me to also hear the voice of Amitji, because I couldn't attend his talk. Monica Gore is asking, as you said that recording moving images is film, then where you see the role of narrative or storytelling in that situation? Don't you think that the presence of story is also an important element to call a moving image actually a film? So over to you, Amitji. This question from Monica Gore.
Purely historically and technically, that is completely incorrect. Okay. Cinema began with a very famous film by Louis Lumiere called Train Arriving at a Station, which is simply a recording of a train coming, standing at a station, and people getting down. And it was cinema. Okay. Nobody has ever doubted that it was not cinema. Now, you can do that. Everybody with a phone today can do that kind of thing. Does that mean I am creating cinema? You are using the language of cinema. Okay. It's like you use language in your word processor on your computer. When you use Microsoft Word, it does not turn you into William Shakespeare overnight, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't write. Okay. So it's the same thing when you open your mobile phone and you record a moving image of yourself or a friend and upload it on Reels on Instagram. It is cinema. It is not cinema that is going to earn you money in a hurry right now, right today, but it is cinema linguistically, and it would be incorrect to not call it cinema. Okay. That is where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Tyagi, for your perspective on a recorded image, a recorded moving video as the first form of cinema, which can further evolve, understandably. So over to you, my honored Vice President, Professor Dr. Ambarish Saxena, and a pillar of Global Media Education Council. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. It was a delight to be there in this session. And in fact, whenever I'm here, my role is more of a listener, because listening is equally important than speaking. And it was really a pleasure to listen to so many eminent people, particularly Mr. Amit Tyagi, and the definition that he gave of cinema, and just now the way he explained as to what exactly cinema is. So that, I mean, if you listen to such kind of speakers, then definitely that enhances your understanding. And the last speaker, Mr. Prashant Kashyap, he actually gave completely a new perspective, the cinema being racist, the cinema being elitist and all. I mean, all shocks came finally. So obviously there are a lot of such questions which we need to ponder on. And this is something which will continue, I mean, these kind of discussions. So I thank you for all the people who are there. And thank you, Professor Chaudhary, to join finally in this session and adding value to this session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Professor Bokhare Savadagu. Thank you that you're constantly being with us, Professor Amit Srivastava, Professor Amit Tyagi, and Prashant Kashyap, Mr. Prashant Kashyap. I'm really overwhelmed, and thanks a ton. And I wish you a very happy weekend and a good night to everyone and all the attendees. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.